Hey Abby, I hope you had a really good week. I just wanted to check in with you about your informational writing from week 2. Um, I'm just gonna go over here. So, great job using Adobe Spark. This looks so good. I love the pictures you chose. I love how bright they are. They really are super helpful for the reader. Um, it helps it helped me, and it would help all of your readers who don't know too much about palmistry to really see what that looks like, where those lines are, and to make sure that we're looking at the right line when we're kind of following along with your paper. Um, I am super quick going to show you that when you go to make revisions on this, um, there are, or I'm sorry, not there, you would hit share and then publish and share link, and that's going to kind of refresh and resave your work. I can't do it. It doesn't work when I do it, but I am also going to have you send it to your Google Drive, just in case. Then it's in a couple of different places. And while I have this up right here, I think that there is supposed to be a picture here, but I'm not sure because it says replace, so I'm not sure maybe if the picture did kind of something weird or what. But I really love what you did here. I think every picture that you chose goes really well with what you chose to write about. So like here when you're talking about like remember that your life is not on your hands but in your hands, that kind of really goes with that picture that you chose. And right here those pictures follow along with what you're talking about. One of the things that I wrote down on your informational one, I wrote your comments for the palmistry one here because it came out kind of weird just as like a picture. Ooh. So I wrote the comments for that over here. Your pictures work really well. I was wondering if you thought about maybe adding what it looks like when you go in to get your palm read. What do they do? What questions do they ask you? Do they touch your hands a lot? Do they just look at your hands? Kind of maybe if you wanted to talk about that and really what it looks like to read a palm when you go in and get that done by like an actual person. Or if you're not sure, one of the things that we're going to talk about a little later is using some sources. So trying to find something that might kind of go along with what you're talking about, or even that's going to add something kind of new or extra. But great job with that. And then also you made some revisions that were to help your language be more accessible for readers who are unfamiliar with that content. And so that was a great job. And we're going to talk about that a little bit too and how to change that up just a little bit. So the first thing that I think is really going to help you when you have that language that's very specific to palmistry, or that's very specific to playing an instrument or music in general, is going to be this concept called an appositive. I'm not sure if you've learned about this before, but an appositive is a noun or pronoun that helps describe the information before it. An appositive is set off. Okay, I'll show you in a second. An appositive is like set off. It's going to get put in between commas, unless it's at the end of a sentence or the beginning. Then it's only going to have one. So for example, if the noun is Thomas Edison, the appositive is going to describe Thomas Edison. So Edison, the inventor of the light bulb, is often called the US's greatest inventor. And so instead of saying Edison invented the light bulb, and then in a separate sentence saying Edison is often called the US's greatest inventor, you kind of can smush those into one sentence because the inventor of the light bulb is just kind of giving you a little more information about him. So on the next page, we're going to do some practice. Let me present this. I won't be able to see it, but I think it still records. Okay, so here's some practice. So the first sentences say, Queen Victoria ruled for 63 years. She was one of England's greatest monarchs. So to use an apostrophe here, not an apostrophe, I'm so sorry, an appositive here, it would say Queen Victoria one of England's greatest monarchs, ruled for 63 years. That information about her just adds some extra information, and you can use that in your writing when you're talking about words that like dynamics or rhythm, or like even if you use something like percussion or brass, some of those words that people might not understand what those mean. So instead of saying she ruled for 63 years, she was one of the greatest monarchs, you kind of smush them together and add some more information so it can all be one really good sentence instead of two like okay sentences. The next example says, Harvey Jensen is a pro at the country club. He is giving me golf lessons. You can combine those into one sentence that gives you more information to say, Harvey Jensen, the pro at the country club, is giving me golf lessons. Because it doesn't really need its own sentence to say that he works at the country club. It kind of combines it together. And then again, James Hilton wrote the book Lost Horizon. It has been filmed 2 times. You can add that information here. So this is kind of what it's going to look like more for yours when you're talking about specific content-specific vocabulary that you want to give a little like baby definition to. So like the book Lost Horizon has been filmed twice. All right, so here is what you wrote for your first draft and your second draft of your one about the difficulty of playing instruments and kind of how you can look at that in a few different ways. So the first time you wrote, you have to maintain good posture, stay in rhythm, watch your bow hold, play the correct dynamics at the correct time, and run your fingers up and down the fingerboard to hit the right notes, all while reading a sheet of music with eighth notes scattered all over the page. That's great. Those words, you want to keep those words in there because those words are very important for music. We talked about this last time. I played in band when I was in high school and college. And so you want to keep some of those words in there because they are important and they're very specific. Those are good words to use. For your second draft, you kind of change it up a bit. And instead of saying bow hold, you said holding the bow correctly, playing the correct volume at the correct time to replace dynamics. But as I'm sure you understand as a musician, the word volume doesn't necessarily hit everything like the word dynamics does. It gives you a little bit of a different vibe. And so you really can still keep the word dynamics in there. So how can we combine these two, kind of using a good definition that people will understand versus using one that's specific to your topic? You can combine those, and a good way to do that is to use in a positive. So instead of maybe making it a list, you could say something like, one important aspect of playing an instrument is dynamics, how loudly or softly music should be played. And that red part is the appositive. That's what you're adding in there. That's kind of combining dynamics and then like the volume part from the other side. And then the next sentence says, other important things to focus on are staying in rhythm, the pattern of sounds in a song, and maintaining good posture. So kind of adding that a positive in there, like what does rhythm mean in a musical context? But something like maintaining good posture is something that people who aren't musicians would understand. So you don't really need to add anything extra for that. So that's just something to take a look at if you wanted to. Appositives are so helpful for getting rid of all of the unnecessary words that we have in sentences that kind of repeat over and over again. And then also for things like this, where you want to keep that specific word, but you also want to explain to your audience what that word means if they don't know. So for your the second thing I wanted to talk about tonight is using sources and quotes. This is a screencast done by one of the other tutors. It'll come up on YouTube, but I'm gonna just, once it pops up, I just wanted to show you what the beginning looked like.
Hi everyone. Today
So she talked about how to find reliable sources and how to use those sources in your writing that in a way it's going to benefit your informational writing piece. I also linked this right here. Oh, my little picture's in the way. Right here. For you, if you wanted to watch that video, it's a really helpful video. It's a great resource, of how informational writing can kind of be used, or can use sources to really help develop the overall topic. And so here I wrote, informational writing is fueled by reputable sources. So sources that are strong, that people believe what they say. They're not sources that are going to be like Wikipedia, I'm sure your teachers have told you this, people can go on there and edit things. So when you read a source, people don't trust if Wikipedia is your only source. They do trust, however, if you have like a scientific journal or if you have a government website listed, something like that. And that's something that she talks about a little bit in that video. But they help your writing become stronger. People are more likely to believe you and the information you provide if you have support from good sources. Going along with sources can also be using quotes. And so for your specific piece, using a quote from a famous musician about the difficulty of playing music might help someone who's not a musician relate to the topic. So I found this just on a quick search. This was a Johnny Cash quote. Obviously, I would look into it a little more and make sure that this is the right context and everything. But he said, "You build on failure. Use it as a stepping stone and close the door on the past. Don't try to forget the mistakes, but don't dwell on it." So that was really good because overall your piece is saying like, well, writing music or not playing music can be really difficult. Playing an instrument can be very difficult, but at the same time, it's really rewarding. And it's worth it in the end once you get all of your practice in and you keep practicing. It is really worth it. And so that's kind of a quote that talked kind of like that, but a lot of people know who Johnny Cash is, and that would help draw them into your piece. And it would also give you some support from a famous musician who says, no, like it really is hard. It really is very difficult. But you want to keep going with that. A non-musician may know someone famous like Mozart, and a quote might help engage the reader. And the quotations will help your reader understand the topic from a different perspective. And it will help kind of give you evidence from someone who has also experienced the topic kind of like you have. So that's kind of what I'm tasking you with this week, is to look and see if you can find one source at least for both of your pieces. I know you mentioned you wanted to maybe try Adobe Spark for the instrument piece too, and I think that that would be awesome. I think you really chose awesome pictures that help for the palmistry one, and I think that you would do a really great job with that for the instrumental one too. If you have any questions, go ahead and email me. And again, you're doing such a great job with this online writing workshop, and I'm excited to see what you have next week. So I hope you have a great week, and I will talk to you later. Bye.